Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Welcome to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and on Street Talk, what we do, we talk about political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight is three of my good friends.
Baba Kuba, Kweku, Willie Davis.
Dennis Burnside.
I'm Roy McNeil. He just Doc. Just call him Doc.
Remember Doc?
Yeah, just Doc.
We was on a conversation about Black Lives Matters. Let's talk a little bit about that before we move on to something else.
Well, again, I just think it's an important movement that was that's coming at the right time from the right group of people, from the right demographics who understand the power of social media. And like with most movements, they come from the youth. If you look at SNCC and the Black Panthers, that energized the civil rights movement in the 20s. I'm seeing the 20s. I'm thinking about when you were young. In the 60s, it came out of young African Americans who energized the SLCC and the NAACP and the older generation into taking firm action. Whatever tactic you want to use, we've got to stand up and address these issues. And I think that's what BLM is doing today. And I admire these young people.
It's great, and one of the issues listening to you earlier, why there's so much pushback, is has a strong woman-led portion to it too. Even though
Absolutely.
One of the best parts of it, though, it also seeks to be leaderless, also too, so you can't concentrate on the leader.
Right.
So I like it in terms of those aspects too.
Which shows they've learned.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
They read the history and they learned.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say?
These kinds of activities always come from the youth. I don't care how far you go back. You can go back 2,000 years. Jesus Christ was a child when he started teaching and preaching. Muhammad was he was an older person, obviously Moses, but David and Goliath, a child. The Bible says the child shall lead them. What we do and what you do with this show of mine, I'll be real quick, is bring out and highlight the things that are happening. And it is so important that you do that. And I'm so proud that you invite us, Dennis, Doc, and I said that's Doc over there, Doc. Yeah, I'm so happy that you invite us to talk about these subjects, because a lot of kids now are so consumed in their everyday lives, they don't have time to really think about the issues that affect them. Whether it's now I'm 65 years old. I grew up in Chicago, South Side Chicago. There was no such thing as police brutality. They just whip you behind. You know, there was no such thing as equal justice under the law. There was a guy that they just convicted. He was some kind of a detective or something. Over 50 cases, he beat confessions out of innocent people. And now he's going to prison. But you was talking about it earlier. Doc was right. You was talking about earlier. That's the first time I heard. What's the guy named in Detroit?
Malice Green.
Malice Green. Those are only 2 times, and I'm 65 years old. I've heard where police or prosecutors got consequences for doing what they did.
Well, I just we was just talking about. I was reading something. Either 10 or 12 years. In the last 10 or 12 years, the policemen and that shot and beat and everything, only 24 or 27 of all those cases where they was found guilty.
It's rare. Rory's from Chicago, so I'm certain he knows about this. I just found out from this show called Democracy Now! This summer.
Yeah.
They had an expose where there was a group of policemen out of this one particular precinct that had this location where they took black men primarily in and turned them into suspects. They would torture them. They would put out eyes. They would murder and then frame somebody else for the murder so they could keep on doing what they're doing. I'm talking about the most heinous activities that make the SS
you can imagine.
make the Nazi SS look like bridesmaids.
That's
was going on in Chicago.
That's right.
So yeah, they
just bought
murder
that
with
guy.
impunity.
He just got charged. This was back when I was a kid. This is back when I was a teenager. He was doing this stuff.
Absolutely.
And they just brought him to trial last year. There are people that have died, going to prison, died probably, a couple of men executed until Ryan, the governor, did the moratorium on the death penalty in Illinois, that have been executed on false evidence. The same thing you talk about,
Absolutely,
Dennis.
yeah. And that's America. That's how it is here.
America.
Yeah, that's how it is, man. And so you either have to peep game and step to it, or you could put your head in the sand and pretend like everything is fine. It disgusts me when I hear again, these Uncle Tom Republicans talk about. For example, I heard a brother, and I can't remember his name now, man, but he's a Trump supporter.
I know exactly.
He was on News One Now this morning,
Yeah.
and they were talking about Kaepernick, the quarterback with San Francisco, not standing for the national anthem. Now, when I was in high school, we didn't stand for the national anthem because we had political and social concerns that weren't being addressed, and we said, "Damn a flag." That was the way we came up. Red, black, and green was our flag.
Yeah.
Now, Kaepernick is doing what he's doing for the reasons that he states, and he's got the right under the First Amendment to stand, turn his back, do backflips,
do anything.
sing zippity doo dah, whatever he wants to do. And I heard this cat that's a black Republican Trump supporter stand there and say he ought to be loyal and appreciate that flag and what it's done for him, and standing with his hand over his heart. And I feel, in mind of all the things we've talked about over the weeks, including today, about what happened in Chicago, how this black man could stand there and say something like that is beyond my comprehension.
Now, I've got you by a couple of years, and Doc probably got us all,
He got a mod.
Yeah, I know he got a mod. Anyway, that was our standard to bear. We did not stand for the national anthem. We would stand there quiet. We'd put our hands, cross our hands behind our back, because do you know that the national, not the national anthem, but the Pledge of Allegiance was written by a communist, a bigot? We the people in the United States, blah, 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 and the life lived so happy. All right, we knew that was a lie. But we had to say it every morning in school. We had to say it every morning.
Yeah.
So now, but you're right, though. We would not stand. I take that back. Now, the only time we would stand for the national anthem was if there was recruiters in the crowd, college recruits, college coaches. Yeah, we stand there, we sing national anthem. Oh, say. Yeah,
but at least you had a real reason.
Yeah, but we had a real reason then. We trying to get recruited to school. We trying to get from high school to college.
But I just found out Francis Scott Key, when he wrote that song, he wrote it at a time where he was fearful for his life.
Yep.
There were black soldiers fighting for the British who were kicking their behind, And he wrote that song. I mean, you've said a couple times that we have the only national anthem, which is militarist. And he talks about bombs and guns and things like that. And he wrote that song in response to having his bacon saved against black soldiers who were coming to get him. And of course, he was also
King George said any black that fight against Americans has his freedom.
And he had a black wife,
King George.
Charlotte Sophia.
I did
say
not
that
know
again,
that.
Doc.
Of England.
Say that again.
Charlotte Sophia, the
Oh,
black
go ahead, talk
queen
about
of
that.
England.
Yeah, talk about that.
Charlotte Sophia, that was his wife. She was
Wow.
half German, half African. That was the wife of King George.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
during the
got- I got
Revolutionary War.
pictures of her.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's interesting that the father of, or the one who lost the colonies was married to a black woman.
Well, the one who became the
Was
first president,
great-grandmother of-
Henning,
great-grandmother
George Washington.
of-
All right,
No,
excuse me for
go-
interrupting you.
no, go ahead.
But you're right though. All right, now I didn't know that. That's interesting what you had said about King George. But George Washington, Henning, you know, all them black
Oh,
children.
that's Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, Sally Henning.
That was Tom Jackson. But George Washington too.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
matter of fact,
They all were slaves.
let me say this. Not only that, let me just say this, and y'all think about it for marinate for a minute. Do you know any white person with the last name Washington? Other than George Washington.
Or
Yeah,
Jefferson.
think about
I was
it.
just about to say.
No, there's a couple of Jeffersons.
I've never met
But
one, there may be. I've never
Doc,
met
you're
one.
right. I agree with you. There's this city council member now, Jody Washington. That's the only white person I ever known
She's
in my
married to a
life.
black man.
Yeah, she married to a black man.
That explains it.
That last
That's where the
name
name
was
come from.
Washington. Now, we treading on a little trivia and this stuff now, you know, little hyperbole like you was talking about earlier. But you don't know no white people last name Washington.
How many non-brothers you know named Roosevelt?
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, that's you know. Here's another thing that you hear young people criticize all the time for putting, you know, prefixes or suffixes on names. You know, Lysandra, Shamichael.
Yeah,
you know, but
yeah.
to me, or we create words like we don't have a conversation, we conversate.
Yeah.
See, to me, those things all come from our African DNA.
I agree with that. I agree
In
with that.
fact, we are now at a moment, and that shows again, I mentioned that Black Lives Matter, there were 3 black women that started it. You also notice now you don't see very few African American girl children named Jane or Sue. They're all Laquiqua. So they have, and I don't know whether it's a nationalistic reason, but they have totally gotten out of naming their girls European names.
Now, what do you mean they, us? You're right, Doc. First of all, you 100% right. We have gotten out of naming our girls and our boys. My sons named Rory Jr., Rasan, Kenya, Ebony, Larissa, and Tierra, and Keon, your daughter. We've gotten away
all
from
my
Jane,
others
Sally,
don't,
and
right.
Sue. Yeah.
Well, the boys are still named Tom and Frank.
Well,
But
okay.
and when I said they, I actually meant the women have gotten out of naming the girls. They still name the girls because a lot of fathers want their children to be named after them. And there are some boys named with Muslim names, but it's the girls who are almost to a person don't have European names.
I don't have a problem with you saying. I'm saying it's equal now. I can name all my kids. I can name all my nieces and nephews, unless, Doc, reason people can disagree, I'm just saying. Now, unless you name your son Junior Willie, you name your son Junior Dennis, those names are gone.
What do you
Yeah.
think that emanates from? Because obviously we didn't sit down and have a conference about it, but it seems to be understood. What
Yeah,
do
it's
you
understood.
think that emanates from?
The creativeness, Doc just talked about a minute ago, the creativeness of the African culture. We are the only people that have enhanced a language. You go to Chase, Manhattan Bank, or whatever, 24/7. Where that come from? That come from the hood. That come from right down there on the corner. Hey man, I want to rap about getting something. Where that come from? Right down.
Mickey D's.
That's right.
Chop it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Diss somebody.
Did somebody? Yeah. We have caused the English language to be a living language. Latin is dead. French is dead. Spanish is kind of like because there's so many of us that are Hispanic of nature. Mm-hmm. Those are living languages because we interject new words and meanings.
Mm-hmm. I was telling the cat that one time. He said, I said, why do you think cats say or call each other cats or say hey or hey man?
Hey man.
Hey man. Yeah. It's because the bop musician said, when we leave this venue and we can't get a meal or a hotel room and they want to call us boy, I'm going to make sure you know you're a man and you're going to treat me like a man. What's up, man? What's happening, man? Yep. What's going on, man?
Yeah. I was in church one time, and I didn't have but $10. I had to put something in the church, so I wanted to get some change. You know, pay, my offering and stuff. So I put the 10 in there. I was gonna get my change back. And the preacher, the pastor, hey man, all right, everybody, thank you. I said, hey man. He said, there you go, brother, stand on. I said, hey man. He said, go on, get on up, brother. I said, now, hey man, I need my change.
In the last 2 weeks, really, I've seen three black dudes now on TV every evening. They have three people speaking for Trump and one speaking for Hillary and then one, is kind of like neutral. But it just puzzled me. Trump said all these things about Hispanics and we see the way blacks were treated when they was at his when they was out there,
his rallies and stuff,
everything.
Primary rallies.
And still, blacks can set up their own TV and saying all these things and with Trump. What do you think about that?
It doesn't puzzle me at all. Even in the concentration camps, there were Jews who helped the Nazis. In every group, there are always those who helped the oppressors. And I don't think we ever gonna have, because they do it from personal interest. They gain by that. We saw it. I saw it in education. There are blacks that gain from keeping blacks miseducated. Mm-hmm. You always have people that gain. I just think they're to a minimum. I mean, still, at least the percentage that they say that blacks who vote for Hillary is 99-1. So I'm not really concerned about the 1% because they always gonna have that. They could be paying them. They might even actually believe it. But there are, to me, collateral. I mean, this is going to happen. You're not going to ever have a 100. Even in the in the 60s, in 63, I was against the black nationalists. But by 65, I became a nationalist. Mm-hmm. So it takes time and it takes movements to change. I mean, when they first started wearing afro, I wasn't gonna wear no afro, man. I ain't wearing my hair like that. So, but I changed, and I remember when Stokely Carmichael came to town, and one guy jumped up and he said, "Why, Stokely, you're a goddamn liar." And I think we'd have killed him had not Stokely said, "Hold on, you was once a Negro too." And that's what he said.
So in other words, he hadn't made that ascension.
Right. Yeah, we had to go, and some of us still need to come along.
Well,
Kwame Ture, I like to, because he called himself Kwame Ture, so I like to use
that. Kwame Ture, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great man.
I'm just, and it don't, I guess I think about all the way back to Douglas. Then I look all the way back
Frederick
here.
Douglass.
Yeah, look all the way back here, and I still see how some of us You know, because when Douglas tried to escape, two of the times, first 2 times he tried to escape, the first time he had 2 guys with him, and those 2 guys had already told the boss man that they was going to try to he was going to try to
Yep.
escape.
Yep.
The next time there was 1 guy with him. The boss found out, you know. So
And the boss was his daddy.
yeah, the next time he said,
Yeah, his master was his father.
yeah, and the next time he didn't have anybody with
Yep.
him, and he got away.
But you know that's similar to the Harriet Tubman thing, when she carried the shotgun, and she said
it is. I was gonna
she
say
said
that
the shotgun ain't for them.
Yeah, it's
for
for
one of
you.
y'all thinking you gonna go back.
Yeah, right.
That's what the shotgun's for.
Once you get on this path right here,
committed.
ain't no turning back. You
Ain't turning
the interesting story, both those stories, obviously, what Doc was saying too, but Frederick Douglass's master was his father, just like George Washington, just like Thomas Jefferson and all of them. And he trying to escape. The 3rd time, he gets away. He gets to Maryland. Now, people don't know, then the D.C., people don't know, D.C., they used to have slave auctions within eyesight of the White House. And then finally, the French and the Spanish and the English, because who had already outlawed slavery, even the Mexicans, even Mexico. Matter of fact, just as many Mexicans went to, black slaves went to Mexico that went to Canada. Mexico was closer. I'm in Mississippi, Mexico ain't but, that ain't but a couple 100 miles.
Yeah.
You know, when you had mentioned before, too, when we were talking about the naming, you are right, many black men are getting their names different, too. But the kind of the point that I was going to is the role that the black woman is beginning to play
No, I agree.
in the whole liberation struggle. One may because they generally don't kill women, now they will, but they generally gonna kill the men quicker than they kill the women. But the women are now moving. I was reading an article about they were talking about Sapphire. You guys remember Sapphire?
Yeah, Sapphire. Oh,
Her name
Anson
was
Andy. Yeah.
And she was saying instead of running from being Sapphire, the sisters ought to run toward being Sapphire. In fact, many of them are now.
Doc, the
know?
thing that you're saying that people don't understand is we were so reviled and so feared, black men. Black women were the ones that was keeping the family together, pass the thing on. They hang you, any one of us from a tree. She carried the fruit of our efforts on. This is your granddad, your great granddaddy, your so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. They told the stories. And you're right, they worked in the houses. They didn't fear, they feared, I think it was either you or Dennis was saying, somebody been Ahmad. Do you know we are feared black men exclusively? Now, 5 of us with pads behind the panel. See us on the street. You was talking about it earlier in the earlier show. Get off this corner, Negro, blah, 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 blah. We are the only group of people that are feared exclusively. You walk down the street, people start locking their doors, hit their button lock on their car. You walked in the store, they follow you around. You got $1,000 in your pocket. You just going to get a pair of gym shoes, maybe a pair of socks or something. Follow you around the store. We are feared exclusively, and because of the women who breastfed a whole civilization, them too. They sucked off our grandmamas and great grandmamas' breasts,
Yeah.
but turned 14, turned 13. You and Joey can't hang out no
Right. Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm a firm believer in the power of the ancestors, and not just from a spiritual context, but also DNA. I think a lot of things that are about us are passed down. And we come as Africans, we come from a matriarchal society.
Yeah, we do.
We
That's right.
came from where the women
That's
were
right.
the ones who determine your family lineage. We
That's right.
also
That's right.
come from
Mitochondrial DNA.
yeah, and now we're starting to see, excuse me, and we also come from a history where you had a recognition that the feminine and the masculine were just equally as important
That's
to have
right.
that balance that you
Equally as
needed for
the
the spirituality.
balance.
So I think
Thank you.
that's manifested in what
That's
we see
right.
now with
That's
our
right.
women starting to assert themselves, and I think it's necessary.
And I think the balance is moving toward it. Even Hillary, and even though her past is definitely checkered, especially with you mentioned the prison industrial system, she actually came out with it takes a village to raise a child. So she has actually adopted the mantra of the true African society, even though she just said it takes a village. But we understood what's happening. And I think the black woman is somehow making herself. Even now, you see the Democratic National Committee is now run by a black woman. I think the other lady, I don't know if she was black or not, but she kind of looked like
The one from Florida. Debbie
Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
But now you actually are starting to see, and in Africa you got 3 black women presidents now too. You're starting to see, even in the Caribbean and Barbados,
Absolutely.
the black women are flexing their
And that's
muscles.
in us.
You are a
Flexing their
historian,
muscles.
and I think we remiss when we just talk about ethnic group, because only one race, the human race. Pakistan has had a woman president. Russia, Catherine England, they
Germany.
got they
Germany?
that's my exact
I'm
point.
speaking of the
Germany,
black woman.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm just trying to interject here is that once we start separating ourselves, because only human beings.
You mean like all lives matter?
Let me just say this real quick. Yeah, black men are targeted. We know that. We know that. I'm living proof of that, okay? And all of us are living proof of what you can do when you decide to do it. You got 4 or 5 PhDs. Dennis probably the smartest person I know. Maude had the show, and I'm the second part
But
of the
that point that you're going to is
But my
not
point
where
is
we're
that
at.
when we start talking about separating it,
Yeah.
not just black women, women period,
No, but I
have
did.
always.
I meant to separate that. With
I know you
black
did. That's
women.
why I say what
I
I said. I
purposely
know
am
you.
more concerned, and I'm concerned about what women do, but I'm more concerned about the relevancy of black women to our.
No, I agree.
And I'm
I agree.
saying that black women are moving more to front than
And I'm
they
saying
have.
they always have. You just talked about.
Well,
You talked in your class
well,
today
I'm-
about
I'm-
Harriet
well, I'm giving you
Tubman,
I'm giving
about
you
Sojourner
examples.
Truth. We talking about 200 years ago.
I'm not
They
talking
have
about the
always. They have not just
Pakistan
now
women.
started.
Right.
Fannie
Right,
Hamer,
but I'm not talking
Fannie
about
Lou Hamer.
Pakistan women. I'm talking
Okay,
about
okay,
black
all
women.
right. Now, my name is Ahmad Shakaraka, and we catch you down the next block.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.